I am your instructor. I've been a business analyst for probably 7-8 years of my career out of 14-15 years, and then I have many other roles: systems analyst, reporting analyst, release manager. Currently, I am working as a project manager for last 2.5-3 years. I've been in multiple roles across the domain, but I've always been somehow managing or involved in the requirement process. I believe that's my strongest suite, and that's where I try to stay in touch with. So I've been teaching this class for last 7 years at least. We have had close to 70 plus students so far. Many of them are in the industry working for different companies and whatnot. So that's my small background, short background. Can each one of you spend like 2 minutes on yourself and tell me a little bit about yourself? Who wants to go first?
Okay, this is Salman Shahid. Hi, this is Salman Shahid. I have been living here for the last 3.5 years and from Pakistan. Basically, my background is from Pakistan, and I did my Bachelor of Commerce from Karachi University, Pakistan. And right now, I'm doing another job, but not related to the business analyst.
Do you have any work experience, Salman?
No, I don't have any business analyst experience, but I wish I will do it.
So you never worked in Pakistan or anywhere else in a professional environment yet?
Yeah, in Pakistan, I used to do marketing, okay, and here for the last 2.5 years, from July 2015 till January 2018, I have started my job as a bookkeeping in a tax firm. One in HRSS LLC, and the another is Apex Tax Service.
Great. So you have some accounting background from here. That's good.
Yeah, not in Pakistan, but here in US.
That's good. Welcome in the class. Who's next?
Yeah.
My name is Samuel Hassan. I live in Louisiana, and I am originally from Pakistan. But I lived in America for most of my life, and I am currently an Uber driver. And education-wise, I have some college, but haven't completed in any courses or anything. And I've had a few jobs here and there, but currently I'm Ubering. And prior to this, I worked in a company called Stryker, which I was only an assembler, but I got to see a lot of, engineers and their routine and their workspace, and a lot of, high-end people. So that's that.
You said Stryker?
Yeah.
Is it the company in Dallas that used to, I think in medical equipment and medical software they are?
Yeah. I'm actually from Michigan originally, but they have a big headquarters there in Kalamazoo. But yeah, they make medical supplies anywhere from big to small pieces.
Okay. I have one of my ex-roommates used to work for Stryker in Grapevine here.
Oh, okay.
Actually.
Oh, okay. Very cool.
Okay. Good. Small world. Okay, who's next?
Okay. I'm Dominique Don Badebo. I'm currently in the Dallas area, originally from Wisconsin. I was a project manager for 5 years, then ventured off into the medical field. Currently, I'm working for Blue Cross Blue Shield Health Insurance as a business analyst. Prior to that, I worked for Northwestern Mutual in Milwaukee headquarters, also as a business analyst for a couple of years. I am a certified Scrum Master, and that's pretty much it.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining the class. Welcome to the class.
Thank
So
you.
let's have a quick start here. So basically, what is a business analyst? Many people have many theories, and unfortunately, it's not one definition or one explanation that can define this role. It's a very diversified role. It depends on the day at the job. You might be involved in one thing by the beginning of the day, and by the end of the middle of the day you might be doing something else, and by the end of the day you might be doing something else. So you have multiple roles to play as a business analyst. But as for that definition wise, he's a Superman. He or she is a bridge between two departments, two different group of people who don't speak the same language. So basically, for business and IT, they speak different languages. And the business analyst role is to be the liaison, the middleman in between, to translate and understand what each one of them is trying to say. He can be an interpreter, enabler, a messenger, a change agent. You can give him multiple names. So basically, why we need business analysts? As I said earlier, not every the IT is a separate unit. When you go to a corporate America, the IT is a separate unit always. But there are marketing, there is engineering, there is XYZ, finance, and whatnot, and they all need some application, some software, some things to make their job quicker and faster and more efficient. And they all want this business. They have a business problem in their head, and they want a solution for this business problem. This business problem could be an existing problem, or could be a change in market trend, or something like that. They want help from IT, but they don't know how to ask for help. That's where a business analyst comes into play. As a business analyst, you need to not only gather the requirement, you need to elaborate the requirements as well. You need to listen what's been said and what's not been said yet. And that's the key. Sometimes business is saying something, but he or she means something else, and that's where experienced business analyst comes into play. When I say experienced business analyst, I'm talking about the domain knowledge. If you are from telecom industry, if you are from just for example, someone said he's an Uber driver or doing Ubering right now, so he has domain experience of rental car or limousine service, you can call it, right?
Yeah.
So you have the industry experience, what the application is helping you with, the application is not helping you with. What if you can change this feature to this feature? It will be much easier for you to grab your next ride or something else, right? That's called domain knowledge. So as a business analyst, you become seasoned when you work in multiple domains or stick to one particular domain. Like if you stay in telecom, after a few years you can hop from one competitor to another competitor because you gain some domain knowledge from other telecom industry. Usually people stay in industry longer because you become kind of sort of expert in your industry. But it's not always, it's not a must that you, as a business analyst, you only work for one industry. You can always switch as long as you learn the fundamentals of business analyst. And in this class, the way we structure this course is, I myself started from a non-IT background 15, 16 years back. I had a finance and accounting background, finance and economics background when I started, and I had a lot of difficulty to get into IT domain. And that's why I designed this course for all those non-IT people who have no exposure to IT, and so that they can, this is the first step for them to get into information technology jobs. Business analyst is the first year because it's not 100% technical job. It's, I would say, 80-20. 20% of the job is technical, 80% of the job is business and understanding business, basically. So this class will help you see what exactly is a business analyst role is, what skills you need. Will teach you those skills in these classes. Will give you some industry assignments, real-time industry assignments that I have done in my career, in my past, so that you will have hands-on experience, will complete a BRD, will complete business process diagrams, will learn some tools that will help you how to draw business process diagram, will cover 2 methodologies and waterfall, will do a BRD, will do user stories, we will do a whole spectrum of end-to-end what a business analyst role could be for you in the industry, so that when you get market, you will have at least limited exposure, some exposure to what the industry demands from you. Who is a business analyst? The primary function of a business analyst is to serve as a liaison, a translator, a communication bridge between non-technical and project stakeholders and the technical solution team. There are more than that. In different situations, you might be doing different things, but these are at least the high-level roles you are expected as a business analyst to do, or to perform at a job. Stop me anytime when you have, if you have a question or you have a confusion or you want more details. This is just a demo. We are just highlighting the areas and building your understanding what this BA role is about, so that you can make a decision whether you want to opt for it or not. And it's just a high-level demo, and then after the demo we'll have a Q&A session, so that I can answer or cover the areas in the Q&A which I have not covered in the demo. One key element, if you want to go for this career, you want to be a business analyst, practice to ask questions. More you ask, better off you will be. This role is a client-facing role. It's not a back-end role. It's not a programmer or a QA who will sit behind their desk and just read emails or read instructions and start coding or start testing. This is a very public-facing role, so the personality you need is different for this role. If you don't have that personality, then you start working on that personality. You have to be out there meeting a lot of people, asking a lot of questions, writing down the fine details and whatnot, documenting all those things, what you have discussed, so that it becomes a second nature. When you go in the industry, you always have this second nature that you capture details and document them and organize them. Very important for a BA to stay on top of all the documentations. Other functions of a BA could be a facilitator, a moderator, a skilled listener. Usually, since we do not practice listening, we only listen to answer. We don't listen to understand things. We don't listen to analyze. This is the area where, especially people from who are not born and raised in this country, struggle a little bit in the beginning. Practice listening. I mean, luckily, since the introduction I got from all of you guys, seems like you are better comparatively with my other students in your communication. But listening is something we don't really practice. It's just, I think until we get into a role like this, we just hear things, we don't listen to things. So I always emphasize in my class that this is one of the very strong characteristics for a successful BA, that you are a good, solid, strong listener. And as soon as you listen or gather that requirement or that detail that you're looking for, document that requirement or capture that in some form, electronic or paper, whatever is possible for you. Team leader, in many situations, a business analyst have to act like a team leader as well. When I say team leader, it could be, since you capture the requirement, you gather the requirement, you are the point of contact between business and IT. Often when IT has a confusion or need more elaboration or more detail on that requirement, they come to you, and then you have to, business may not be available to work with them. You may have to represent business in front of them. So that at that point of time, you may have multiple QAs, multiple BAs who are asking more detailed questions, and then you have to lead them through the requirements and whatnot. Troubleshooter, subject matter expert or SME, domain expert, project manager. Sometimes a BA will play a PM role as well. Usually, if you are a seasoned BA, you switch between PM and BA role very, very frequently, especially if you are in an agile environment, and we'll discuss in more detail what agile environment is. You become very very agile in your personality, and you opt multiple roles, especially particularly PM role as well, in this capacity. Stop me when you have any questions. If I'm going too fast, let me know.
Okay.
As I said earlier, business and IT do not essentially speak the same language. This is why we need business analysts. You know the both side of what the business wants, and you know how to ask IT to deliver what business wants. Basically, this is the reason business analysts exist. So there are multiple scenarios, multiple jokes here that talks about what the business analyst role is. Like this one, the line of business wants a new system ASAP. They are very busy dealing with issues, so they can't assign any stakeholders to the project. When can you have the requirement document ready? And as a business analyst, you will hear these kind of jokes in the industry. I mean, this is not too far-fetched from the reality. We all have seen those situations where business has no time for the business analyst to give the requirement. They think their understanding is that business analysts will somehow cook up all the requirements, and it happens in some areas where BA is very seasoned and he has been part of that group and has been the subject matter expert, but it's not always the case. So one thing you have to practice very early on is to say no. If you as a BA do not learn how to say no, your job will become double difficult, because you are expected to perform in any situation and scenario without oxygen even and deliver the result. So you have to, just like mentioned in this cartoon, that business expect that BA is on board now and he will make the requirements happen. And sometimes it's a huge it's a huge responsibility, and as well as a huge risk. As a BA, you cannot cook the requirements. You have to collect the requirements. You can elaborate the requirements. You can enhance the requirements, but the main requirement should be from the business. No matter how busy the business is, you have to get the requirements from business. In another depiction, the business analyst process is interview the business user, perform a magic, and deliver the requirement. Basically, perform the magic is where all the difficult work is. Sometimes you get a very high level requirement from business, and then once you understand what's been asked, you add more detailed questions, you ask more probing questions so that you can get a more detailed requirement. If you don't ask more detailed questions and take the high level requirement as is to the to the IT, they will not be able to deliver anything. So for an example, when back home, when we go to a tailoring shop and we want to get our any suit, shirt, pants or whatever stitched, you just deliver the piece of cloth to the tailor, and the tailor will start measuring the cloth. Then he will measure you, and then he start asking the questions. You want a full sleeve shirt or a half sleeve shirt? You want how big the collar should be, how many pockets you want, how many, I mean, so on and so forth. More questions he will ask, better product he will be able to deliver to you. When I say better, better does not mean, better means what exactly image you had in your head will be out there for him, for you when the garment will be ready. If he will not ask too many questions, if he will not ask all the questions, it is quite possible that you will not give him much instructions, right? Much details or much details about the image that you have in your head. And then when the product will be ready, it will not be what you have in your head, right? That is exactly the case with business analyst role as well. More you can elaborate, better your product, closer your product will be closer to the image the business had in their head. It's very easy to, it's easier said than done. In every project I have worked so far, I can honestly say that it's not that easy to get every single piece of detail out of your business mind. It takes quite a lot of practice, quite a lot of experience, and back and forth. It's not one short thing that you go and meet that person, interview your subject matter expert, and gather all the requirement in one shot, and then you are done. Whether you are doing agile methodology or you're doing waterfall methodology, it's not one cut thing. It's not a knife edge cut thing that one day all the requirements will be out there. It will be multiple iterations, multiple cycles going back and forth. So, any questions so far?
No.
No.
Okay.
Wait.
No.
Okay. So why we need business analysts? So in the beginning, when probably 12 to 15 years back, there were no roles as business analysts. 15, 16 years back, I would say. The projects were like battlefield. You do things on the fly. Nobody was responsible for collecting all the requirements. It's business talking directly to IT, and IT is directly talking to business. A lot of work was being done, but was not always productive. Sometimes things are done because directly the business is interacting with IT, and what they said or how they said it is different, was interpreted differently by IT, and the final product, when it comes out, it's not what was asked. A little later, organizations invested in project management practices, and they put best practice out there, which is called for the project management, which is like plan, then you build, then you test and implement. But there was still something missing from that picture. About 16% of the project will be completed on time and on budget. Only 16.2% of the projects. About 40 to 56% of the projects. This is late 90s, early 2000, maybe little more towards late 90s. About 40 to 56% of the project conflicts can be traced to requirement error. Finding and fixing requirement error consumes 70 to 85% of the project rework cost. So 70 to 85% of the project cost was consumed by the rework. So, which means 7 out of 10 requirements were done wrong. 7 out of 10 features business asked was not delivered correctly. The average project exceeds its planned time schedule by 120%. About 52.7% of the projects will cost 189% of the original estimate, almost double, 200%, almost 200%. About 30% of the projects are cancelled before completion because they were way off in what they from what's been asked. 30% of them were cancelled before completion. So with all the project management life cycle and project management practices, still that this number was very high. The failure rate was very high for projects. So the conclusion was typical project expends least effort on requirement analysis, which is where most error originates, and those error cost most to fix. That was the outcome of this study, that most of the errors are because of unclear requirements. Just one major area where the lacking was when the requirements are not completely elaborated well, and most of the money was spent on fixing those errors. And that's why the projects were doomed. Most of the projects were doomed. Then now the picture is different. Project management is collaborated with business analysis work, which is describe, then define, which was missing in the project management work. Describe is what the business will tell you, and then you elaborate or get into detail to define it more further, the requirement. This is the area, if you don't have this one covered correctly, then no matter how much you plan, how much you build, how much you test, it's going to fail. It's not going to hit the mark. So when they merge the two philosophies, the project management and business analysis, the diagram, this is the new diagram that shows why projects are getting better and better with the time. Now we spend most of the effort either in this phase or the build phase. As a typical project, majority of the energy is spent on this phase or the build phase. If these three phases are done right, the rest will follow. But if you miss these two, then nothing else will work, no matter how well the project is planned and how well the team is trying to perform and whatnot. So what do these words mean anyway? There are multiple roles or multiple names that a business analyst interact with in a typical project. A system analyst, a system engineer, an architect, a business systems analyst, business analyst, programmer, and so on and so forth. These are all the, not all, I mean, there are more, but these are typical roles you, as a BA, you will interact with. So IBBA is the International Institute of Business Analysis. Their definition of business analyst is the set of tasks and techniques used to work as a liaison among stakeholders to understand the structure, policies, and operations of an organization and recommended solution that enables the organization to achieve its goal. This is the definition of a BA as per the International Institute of Business Analysts. Just like PMP for the project management school, there is an organization called International Institute of Business Analysis, and they do a certification as well. So as Ms. Dominic mentioned that she has a Scrum Master certification, this is also a certification offered for business analysts in the industry. So a business analyst work as a, we have read this in the past as well, that you will be a person performing multiple roles, starting from a liaison, analyzer, communicator, validator, requirement and validate requirements to business process, policies, and information. Any questions so far?
Not yet.
So, just to put the business analyst in context, this is a very helpful diagram. This is the business owner or sponsor of the business, basically who is financing the project. Then project management office, then solution developers, then you have subject matter experts, and in the middle you have business analysts. If you see, each role is talking either to one person or two person only, right? The owner or business sponsor has no direct communication with the solution developer, the person who's actually developing the product. The subject matter expert might be talking to business owners, what exactly the owner wants and whatnot, and talking to business analysts, but he has no direct conversation with who is actually performing the work, the solution developers, or who is organizing or structuring the work, the project manager. So you sit as a BA, you sit in the middle, and you have direct communication with all parties. That's why this role is so important. You know what exactly business sponsor high-level dream is, wants are, what exactly the nitty-gritty details are when you talk to subject matter experts. You know what the plan is, how to execute this all the way, and you know who is doing all the work. So you are the main glue between all the parties in a project. As a BA, you are the glue that joins all other parties together. So you have to have a very solid communication, structure, organization skills, so that you can be up to date on all aspects at all times. If a business sponsor asks you something about where the development situation is, you have the direct communication with this person. If the subject matter expert asks about anything related to project timeline and project plan, you have the direct access to project manager to gather that details for him, and so on and so forth. Any questions?
No.
I know.
Okay. So this is a very famous joke in our industry for business analyst work on the requirement gathering process. Unfortunately, it's a little blur. This is how a business person explains what he wants. This is how a project lead understands what he's asking. This is how the analyst design it. This is how the programmer develop it. This is how the business consultant builds it. This is how the project was documented. There is no such lack of documentation. This is how the operations installed it. This is how customer was billed, I believe. I can't see. This is how it was supported. And this is exactly what business asked for. So each person has a different vision or view of the ask. Your job is to share this picture as soon as possible with all the parties in the game. This is the role of a BA. Sooner you get this picture clear in your head, sooner you can share with all parties, and then they all work together to deliver only this, not this, not this, not this. And it is very, very common in the industry that every member of the team have a different, slightly different, if not a lot different vision of the whole project. As a BA, this is the biggest failure for a BA if not all parties are on the same page at any moment of the project. So basic requirement communication, communicate requirements back to stakeholders, review mostly, small knowledge areas. There are three things that makes your requirement rock solid or foolproof. Is communicate back to stakeholders. When you get a requirement, you elaborate that requirement, you document that requirement, take it back to business for validation. You can also, as a BA, misunderstand what business is asking, or misdocument, or totally miss the bigger picture. So it's always better to go back. It's always recommended as a BA to go back and validate every piece of information you have collected with your business. Review, of course, review that. There are multiple techniques to collect the requirements. People usually take notes when they are talking. People record the conversation with the permission of business, and so on and so forth. Like right now, this class has been recorded. So usually, if you are having an online session with your business, he's somewhere else and giving you requirements and whatnot, you can ask a permission to record the whole conversation and go back and re-listen those discussions so that you can elaborate those requirements more and correctly. And then have smaller knowledge areas. So if the project is too big, you don't want to deal with all the areas at one point. You understand what exactly the length and breadth of this organization and where the requirement changes, where the requirements are coming from. Then pick a small group of people, focus on them rather than inviting everybody in a bigger room and start the discussion. And once you understand that smaller area, then move to the next smaller areas and so on and so forth. How do you do a solution as a business analyst? How you do a solution assessment and validation? Evaluate and select a solution. If you are building a new solution or something for this project, you also assist developers, you also assist testers and QA. You assist with implementation, and then you also assist in post-implementation reviews. What it means, so in a typical IT world, those who are not from IT background, it's not like some business will ask something one day and then it will be ready by next week or whatever. There are multiple environments. When we say environments, what I mean is things are, for example, let's talk about 2019, 2020 Mercedes-Benz model. What you see on the floor is 2018 model, right? You don't see 2019 model or 2020 model or 2023 model right now on the floor, but they are already in the development process. They are already in the engineering and R&D process. A group of people are working in new requirements, what they want to put in cars in next year and next 4 years and 5 years down the road. And engineering people are trying to build those technologies so that they can install those into 2019 model, 2023 model, and so on and so forth, right? Just like that, in IT industry, what you see right now is production environment. For example, you go to your bank account right now. Let's say Bank of America, you do bankofamerica.com, the website opens up, you can log into your account, and what you see is your production environment. This is your live environment. If you deposit $5 in your account, in few minutes you can see the $5 are sitting in your bank now. If you withdraw $500 out of your account, you will see in few minutes those $500 are deducted from your account. This is called live environment or production environment. Just like that, there's another environment. So I'm walking backwards. Right now, I'm walking backwards. So as an outside customer, you don't see other environments. Those environments have limited access to limited people. One environment lower than production is called QA. That's where testing happens. That's a test lab basically. One step below that is called development environment. That's where the things are made. So basically that's the kitchen. That's where all the pots and pans are, and that's where all the things are in not so presentable manner, because that's where things are happening, then the QA, and then comes production, right? So just to set up a visual for my non-IT folks, just like Bank of America that you have access to, and right now you can deposit and detect and see the changes. Just like that, there's an environment which is called QA environment. You cannot access that. Only the people who work as a tester have access to that environment. And one step below that is another environment called development environment. Only developers have the access to that environment. So basically, when you collect the requirements and the project is going on and things are being built, they are being built in a different environment. And then once they are built in that environment, they are migrated to a higher environment, which is a QA environment. And then once everything is tested and reviewed by business, then it's moved into production environment. So basically, when it says assist in testing and QA and whatnot, before you deploy that change or before you put that change out there, you as a business analyst, you take that newly built solution and show it, like before the movies are released, there are pre-release screening, right? With the what you call production houses. So it was representatives from those production houses and the family of the actors and whatnot, they view the movies before it's released to the general public. Why? Because they need to see if everything is up to standard, up to mark. And then the production houses probably purchase those movies so that they can release those movies in the market. That's why that's exactly what happened in the lower environments. In the QA environment, you show that QA work that's been done as per their requirement, get their approval, get the sign-off from business. Yes, it looks exactly what I asked for, and then it goes out in the market, and the public will see on the next morning or something like that. Maybe you have experienced sometime in your life that you're trying to access a website or whatnot, and it says, sorry, we are currently unavailable for some time or something like that, right? Basically, what they are doing is they are updating the new changes in the production environment, and they took the environment access out for everybody. Nobody can access that environment right now because we are moving new things, new changes in that environment. And as soon as within 20-30 minutes, that environment is up and ready, and then you can see, oh, they changed the color of the website, or they changed this thing, this feature, that feature. That's where you assist developers and you assist QA in testing and whatnot. Any questions so far?
Yeah, I have a question.
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, what is the full abbreviation of QA?
Quality assurance.
Quality assurance. Okay, that's it. Yeah.
So basically, in this course, we will let me share the content of this course. It's the way we structure this course is about 8 classes. In first few classes, we only talk about concepts, the role you have to play, the players you have to interact with, what is software development life cycle, and so on and so forth, to build your understanding. So first few classes are mostly just the talk, and then we will start the third class onwards. We'll cover the main meat of the course. So we'll discuss the process flow diagrams, how the business processes are laid out, how you capture those business processes, how you define those business processes, elaborate those business processes, and so on and so forth. That's the real meat of the meat of this class. It starts from the class 3. We'll give you a assignment at the end of class 3, maybe airline domain or some other domain. You will be building a business process diagram for that domain. We'll talk about data element, data mapping. We'll talk about diagrams, workflows. We'll talk about various kind of what is wireframe, what is GUI, what is gap analysis, and so on and so forth. And in the fourth class, we'll be talking about user stories, how you write. We may move them. We may move a few contents up and down as per the pace of the class and the participants of the class. We'll talk about the methodologies. What exact methodologies? We'll cover mainly two methodologies in the class. We'll cover Agile and Waterfall. Almost all the companies these days are going with Waterfall or Agile, but you need Waterfall to understand some old techniques and old concepts. We'll talk about how to write user stories, use cases, acceptance criteria, how to create a problem statement, and so on and so forth. We'll give an assignment at the end of this class as well. It will be a BRD, business requirement document, on a waterfall methodology, and then once the BRD is complete on waterfall, then we will convert that BRD into a agile user story, and you will be converting all those requirements into user stories and acceptance criteria with them, and so on and so forth. We'll talk about in the session 5, we'll talk about testing. We'll talk about all sort of testing that you will be as a BA involved and how much you will be involved in that. We'll talk about a tool that we will cover is Rally. There are multiple agile tools, Jira, Rally, and whatnot. I'll give you a demo of Rally, how the user stories are captured in Rally and how they are worked in a Rally tool. Class number 6, we'll talk about a little bit on databases. Maybe we'll touch upon some SQL queries and whatnot, and we'll provide some training material in that class after that class. And finally, we'll conclude with a little bit more detailed concepts of testing and some terminologies that you will, as a BA, face in the industry. After that class, we will have a few. Ahmed, he will work with you to improve your resumes and make it more marketable. And after those classes, we will have a session of mock interviews, so that you will be ready for marketing and taking interview calls and whatnot. We'll provide all sort of assistance after that, so that you will have. I mean, it's not that once the classes are over, you are done, you cannot reach. We can schedule after that. We will have on-demand sessions, mostly group sessions where multiple students have multiple questions. You can submit your questions, and we will set up a call to answer those questions together. Any questions? Any other comments?
I have a question.
Sure, go ahead.
So, out of these 8 sessions, essentially we have to understand and know majority of the bullet points. So we'll provide you these recordings as well. After each session, the recordings will be available so that you can review and listen back those recordings, plus all the definitions and material that we are discussing in the class. You will get those materials as well, access to those materials, so that on your own pace you can review and revise those materials. If you have any questions and concerns, you can bring those questions back to the next class.
Okay.
And I believe as in the past, we will have 2 sessions, one on Sunday night and one on Wednesday night, about same time, 8 o'clock onwards, so that there will be a consistency. There might be days when we have to cancel the class because of any XYZ reasons, but we'll make up the classes. Probably our target is 2 to 3 months, the batch that you guys will be ready to take interview calls, inshallah.
Inshallah.
Any other questions or concerns? So how many of you think you can take this role, or you have what it takes to be a business analyst?
Sorry, please revise the question.
I'm saying after this demo, how many of you think that this is something you can envision yourself doing? It's not rocket science. It's not difficult. It's just an attitude change. I mean, it's just it's not a technical role, but it's yeah. Go ahead.
I understand, like the bigger concept of what it is. I actually, now that you explained a little more in detail on what's going on. As I worked at Stryker, I actually worked with people, and they were doing this exact thing. The communication between one section to a different section. Like as an assembler, the engineers would talk to this person, and this person would come to us and ask us questions and what we would like to change, what we would like to do to make things better and easier to improve the environment. And like I work with people like this. I just never knew that was a business analyst,
Right.
Exactly. I think we all have seen or worked with people like that in our careers anywhere, but we didn't know that what this particular person's job title is and whatnot. So it's not a rocket science. It's anyone can become a business analyst with some training, guidance, and some practice. So it's not that difficult as it sounds like.
No, it really isn't. You're right.
Okay. I have another question. Is there a certain pace that you require, or like is it that within the 2 to 3 months this is what you should know, or is it at your own pace? Like, is there a time limit to how quickly we need to learn this, or how we're gonna go about?
So it depends. It depends how soon you want to have a job, have a career.
Okay.
Because sooner, I mean, before we start marketing, because Ahmed and his marketing company will only market the students who are ready to pass the interview, the client interview. Because if he's telling his clients that, okay, my consultants are ready for this project and they are interviewing you, and you are not ready, you are not answering their question and not satisfying them or not cracking the interviews, then Ahmed might lose his contract with those companies. So he will wait for me to, I mean, sooner you get ready and you want to get a job, sooner we can help you. I mean, sooner it will happen. So it's up to you, but we technically prefer to have the batch ready and from our side complete and equip you within 3 months. And then if some people need more time, and then that's with them.
Okay.
We have people who took 6 months, 7 months to get their first job, and we had people who, with it, as soon as they finished the course, they said they are ready, and we had a mock interview, and we felt like they are ready to take a career job, and they did it. So it's up to you. We cannot push you.
Okay, I understand. I only say this because currently I'm traveling in about a week. For 2 months I'm not going to be in the States. And my mentality is I'm interested in this and I want to do the best that I can, but I want to make sure that I'm focused and I'm able to do everything to the best of my ability, but traveling and being in a different country, there's a lot of, unknown factors that can affect, my learning and, my ability to do assignments or whatever. And that's why I asked that. Is there, a set bracket of how...
So these assignments, yeah, exactly. This is not a school. These assignments are not to just grade you and promote you to the next level. These assignments are basically for me to judge what I am teaching my students. They are grasping 100% of it or 80% of it or 60% of it, or what level they are after each class, so that I can fine-tune my next class accordingly and help them grasp more. So this is not a test for you. It's an evaluation of my skills as well. How well I'm communicating with my students.
Okay.
So there is no right and wrong answer. I mean, I would really want to have more wrong answers in this class so that we can make them right before we put you guys out there.
Okay, makes sense.
Any other comment or questions or feedback?
No.
I think this was a great overview. It was.
Thank you. You will enjoy the class too. I have changed this multiple times, add new features, new things, new material
Yeah.
in the class from last 6-7 years. So it's constant
Right.
update.
Well, you had a lot of terminology. I'm not familiar with some of the terminology. And as I go from organization to organization, I see that they use different
Exactly.
tools and everything. So I'm always
Exactly.
looking to learn something new.
Let me give you